when you hear it from a warm bed. Before we begin, if you enjoy these tranquil explorations, you can tap like and subscribe, and if it helps, you can open the playlist in the description so learning can drift on softly in the background while you rest. How sleepy are you on a scale of 1 to 10? Imagine yourself inside a habitat that is quiet by design. The air murmurs through filters, soft as a small stream, while fans spin at unhurried speeds, steady as a metronome that never rushes. You find yourself looking at the greenhouse module, a rounded space lined with insulated layers and shaded panels, tucked under a mound of sintered regolith that acts like a blanket, smoothing out the harshness of space. Outside, the lunar surface lies in muted greys, dust fine as flour, grains of glassy mineral that crunch softly under boots, though you will only feel it through the muted sensation of damped footsteps and the slight sway that low gravity lends to every motion. The gentle rhythm continues as you breathe in and breathe out, and the habitat breathes with you. Each task you take on as a lunar farmer invites a measured pace. Movement here is slow because rushing creates floating hazards. When you pour carefully. When you lift with long, patient arcs, letting momentum unwind rather than jerk. Even your thoughts follow the same curve, simple, deliberate, comfortable. You rest against soft handholds while you survey gauges. You wait for a screen to settle on a number. You nod to yourself in the calm light. Picture the first routine of the week, a morning within a controlled day-night cycle. The lunar day outside may stretch for 2 weeks and the night for 2 more, but inside the farm, lights rise and dim according to plants' needs and your own circadian rhythms. Soft, warm lights mimic dawn. Cooler, white lights suggest noon. In the sleeping quarters, a dim amber glow hints at evening. The gentle structure of these artificial hours guides the plants and guides you, like little markers placed along a path. You begin with air, because air is the quiet partner to everything. A panel shows oxygen levels from the plants, which exhale their small, steady contributions. The numbers are stable today, stable because you keep them stable, adjusting the balance between your breath, the plant's breath, and the scrubbers that wait in reserve. Carbon dioxide is not an enemy here, but a resource to be kept in its proper place, a measured portion that helps the leaves grow dense and glossy. You glance at humidity, a number that changes with every plant's tiny transpiration, each leaf releasing a barely measurable sigh. Water condenses on cool surfaces and is collected and returned again and again in a loop that holds no thunder, only a quiet drizzle built from tiny cycles of vapor and dew. Imagine yourself listening for a hiss that never comes, only the hush and the comfort of a closed loop doing what it was designed to do. In low gravity, water behaves with a certain shyness. It clings to surfaces, forms rounded shapes that wobble rather than fall. It stirs calmly without the push of weight. The greenhouse uses that behavior as a tool. A network of tubes carries nutrient solution with slow persistence, guided by capillary wicks and gentle pumps. The roots of your lettuces and dwarf tomatoes, beans and basil are cradled in porous sponges or in sintered ceramic beads that hold moisture like a memory. Nutrient film trickles along channels in a thin, even sheet, clinging to its path as if drawn forward by an invisible hand. You check the solution's temperature, its pH, and the gentle chorus of dissolved minerals, nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, and the company of micronutrients that keep leaves from spotting and stems from weakening. The gentle rhythm continues. Imagine yourself harvesting a handful of greens. The knife is small, the motion unhurried. The leaves are crisp and fragrant, a clean smell of life. Even here on the moon, we're outside. There is no air at all. There is something touching about the first scent of cut basil, something so soft you might not notice it while rushing on earth. But here, with everything slowed and carefully controlled, you can. You pause to appreciate the faint peppery notes, the hint of sweetness in the stems, and the tiny perfumed breath that leaves give when the lights begin to rise. You place the leaves into a sealed container, and the lid clicks softly, like a calm punctuation mark in a simple sentence. Every motion in the greenhouse follows a path of quiet repetition. You reach into a tray, remove a plug with tender roots, place it gently among beads, and secure it with a supportive ring so it will not float. You move to the next tray, then the next, and the next, your hands learning every dimension by touch. You taste the air at the back of your throat to confirm humidity. You glide a hand beneath a series of leaves to check for pests, not because there are many here, but because vigilance, done slowly, prevents surprises later. If you find anything, you respond gently. A soft brush, a mild biological control, the introduction of a tiny helper organism that coexists quietly. Even problem solving takes the form of calm maintenance. You are not in a rush to fix anything. You are simply guiding a system back to balance. Beyond the greenhouse, power panels unfold like patient wings, soaking up sunlight that comes in a steady stream near the lunar poles. If you imagine yourself at one of these bright highlands near a rim of a polar crater, the sun hovers at low angles and sweeps around the horizon, offering long hours of gentle light. Energy flows in without drama and is stored in quiet stacks that do not shout for attention. Some of that energy heats water tanks that double as radiation shields and thermal buffers, keeping temperature changes soft, helping your farm stay consistent. When the rare shadows fall for longer periods at your chosen site, fuel cells sip stored reactants and whisper warmth. The habitat's heart beats slow and certain. The gentle rhythm continues. You are mindful of the moon's temperament. Outside, dust is everywhere, ancient and sharp-edged. It settles on surfaces, it clings with static, and it does not forgive carelessness. There is a place where you transition from suit to habitat, a narrow chamber with gentle vacuum pumps, separate airflow, and a humble ritual. The dust brush, the ultrasound cleaner, the static wands that coax particles to let go. The suit remains in its lock, facing outward, never crossing into the farm's inner sanctum. You imagine yourself performing these steps with ritual quiet. You feel the small tug as the static is cleared. You see the modes caught in a filter stems that tumble spent substrate to shake free roots so you can compost them. There are tethers as thin as ribbons, connecting objects to trays so they float only as far as they should and no farther. Even the watering can is a misnomer here. There is no can. There are wands with sponge tips and flexible ships of capillary weave, delivering moisture as a tender touch, drop by stubborn drop where it is needed, not splash by scatter. Imagine yourself using these things with the ease of habit. You move so that nothing escapes your control, the same way a poet chooses words that never rush. Perhaps a day flows toward midday. Lunch is simple. You rinse greens in a small trickle that beads and runs along a curve into a capture channel. The taste is crisp, the texture springy, the dressing mild and calculated to use as little oil as needed. Tomatoes are firm, skin thin, the seeds tiny bursts where you expect them. You add rehydrated grains to make a quiet, satisfying bowl that tastes better because you grew a part of it. The memory of rain on earth is distant but friendly, like an old song you hum without words. You chew slowly because slow is the pace of this place. You swallow and feel warmth spread, and when you set the bowl down, it holds to a textured mat that keeps it from wandering. After lunch, a slow circuit through the systems is a way to say thank you to the things that keep you well. A water recycler hums steadily, breaking down unwanted compounds, turning breath and wash and condensation into clear, safe liquid. There is a faint smell of clean metal and the suggestion of minerals that pass along the line, then are gathered and reassigned to the nutrient reservoir. A quietly cycling unit treats heavier flows, welcomes symbiotic bacteria, and turns what people and plants discard into something that supports life again. The idea of waste becomes gentle and circular here, like a never-ending round dance, a chorus returning to itself. You might spend the early afternoon with a rover outside, slowly. Driving on the moon in low gravity is not an exercise in speed. The ground looks flat, but it is full of memory, footprints that last for lifetimes, compressed tracks that do not erode in any familiar way. You keep a pace that leaves no dust cloud. You watch the horizon where the earth may linger, low and constant at high latitudes, like a coin resting on a tabletop. You deliver a small crate of regolith that has been baked and pressed into blocks to form a better wall against radiation and temperature swings. When you return, you pause in the airlock again and do the ritual of dust removal. Each step is quiet, each step careful, each step the same as the step before, and the gentle rhythm continues. Inside the greenhouse, some plants are perennials, some annuals. Short-statured fruiting varieties produce in tight, careful clusters. Dwarf beans twine around small frames, restrained by soft ties that coax without cutting. Strawberries, if you choose to grow them, send faintly scented blossoms that you pollinate by hand with a brush as soft as breath. You run the brush through the air like a painter making clouds, and pollen moves like a small invisible confetti that needs no parade. You find comfort in repeating this from blossom to blossom, a steady alternation that produces a quiet yield. Bees could do some of this work, but in a closed habitat, you prefer manual control. panels are tuned to the plants. Blue light for steady leafy growth feels cool and precise. Red light for flowering and fruiting feels warm and gentle. The canopy lamp panels shift their hue and intensity over hours, like an unhurried symphony. Leaves angle toward them and then relax with circadian grace when the lights dim. You learn the language of leaves. Curl means thirst. Purple tinge means a need for magnesium. Pale speckles speak of iron's quiet absence. You answer with solution adjustments so slight they barely dent a decimal point. In a few days, the leaves answer back, their colour deepening, their posture easy again. Imagine yourself taking the time to notice these minute changes. The act of noticing becomes a restful activity, like watching a tide that moves in slow motion. Physical work remains a constant thread. Low gravity makes heavy objects light, but it does not remove the need to bend and reach, to twist and carry on odd vectors, to work with arms extended to keep tools from floating away, to hold awkward shapes steady while the screws find their homes. The phrase back-breaking feels different here. It is not about lifting beyond what you can carry, but about repeated motions, long sessions of careful attention, prolonged stances that ask the body to hold positions it would rather not. You protect yourself with core exercises on a quiet treadmill that uses harness tension to simulate the pull of gravity. You stretch in a smooth, slow sequence, lengthening time and muscle alike, feeling a low, pleasant burn rather than a painful one. The gentle rhythm continues, and the body learns to be here, the way plants learn to be here. In the late afternoon, you might check the seals around the greenhouse window, pans where transparent layers and water jackets curve to let in light. The water jacket serves as both shielding and a thermal buffer, a shimmering moat around your little kingdom of leaves. Micro bubbles move inside, absorbing and releasing warmth with patient slowness. A small camera watches for any changes, and the display stays reassuringly still. Outside, the regolith piles offer their own comfort, a mound as simple as a blanket, and you think about how shelter on the moon often looks like quiet geometry rather than charming architecture. The lines are clean, the purpose clear, and your care makes it beautiful. Meal preparation in the evening is another small ritual. Lettuce again, perhaps with layered leaves of mustard that add a little heat, tempered by a spoonful of mild yogurt cultured from a starter you keep in a careful incubator nearby. The incubator hums like an attentive cat. For starch, a pouch of rehydrated noodles or rice, dotted with bits of freeze-dried vegetables, softened in water, and a drizzle of oil that travelled across space in a tank no bigger than a music player. The oil pours in slow motion, forming a tiny dome before its surface tension yields, and it spreads into a thin sheen. You stir and watch the colours blend, smiling at the way cooking becomes a quiet form of chemistry under low gravity and limited resources. The taste is honest and unhurried. It is what it needs to be. Night begins in the habitat as lights dim. The greenhouse shifts to a deep, restful palette. Some sections glow with faint far red light to cue the plants toward their their nighttime processes, a botanical whisper reminding them to turn inward for a few hours. You drift through the module one last time, checking for anything that needs attention. A small pump that runs too warm gets a slight adjustment. A tray that is too dry gets a few extra minutes of mist. Then you pause and watch a leaf unfurl under a steady breeze from a small fan. Imagine yourself listening to that faint, even sound. It is like distant rain, the kind that lulls you to sleep on a long, gentle night. You return to your sleeping quarters. The blanket feels familiar. The pillow supports your head in the way you prefer, even when 1/6 gravity changes how you sink into it. You pull the blanket up to your chest, feel warmth pool around you. You let your eyes close and picture the greenhouse continuing without you for a while, as systems keep their promise and plants inhale and exhale steadily and softly. The world is simple now and small and safe. You drift into sleep, your breathing and the fans aligned. A new day is much the same, because farming is a long conversation held in small phrases repeated over time. You begin with the air, then water, then the leaves, then the roots. You inspect calibration tools and check sensors that measure dissolved oxygen in the solution. Important because roots need to breathe. 2. In low gravity, gases do not separate as on Earth, so you coax air into the solution with tiny bubbles that dance like silver beads, swirling through a porous stone at the bottom of a tank. The bubbles bring oxygen to the roots, and the roots, grateful, return steady growth and resilience. The gentle rhythm continues. You imagine yourself guiding a robotic arm that helps move trays from germination racks to growth channels. The arm is slow but precise. You control it with subtle hand motions, the interface a soft circle of light that reads your intentions as you draw them in the air. This makes heavy shifting simpler and reduces the strain on your back and shoulders. It is not a hurry, but a supportive partner, taking work you do not need to do while leaving you the tasks you find meaningful. The decision making, the touch at the exact moment it matters, the human side of farming that no mechanism can imitate fully. Germination racks are warm and comfortable, small heated mats under humid domes where seeds take their time to wake. The smell here is earthy and fresh, like a gentle reminder of forests and gardens and the taste of spring. Radishes sprout quickly, their cotyledons opening like little spoons. Wheatgrass rises in lime green blades that offer fresh juice and a swallow of vitamins. These vast crops create a reassuring cadence, a frequent return to harvest and refresh, while longer crops like tomatoes and beans carry a slower beat, anchoring the greenhouse with their patient cycles. Outside work continues at a slow and steady pace. Sometimes you help unload a supply lander, moving packages that floated the long way from Earth. The boxes arrive with labels, some familiar, some new, containing spare parts, vitamins, filament for the printer, gasket rings, bales of regolith-based fabric that act as thermal liners, packets of seeds waiting for their turn in the warm, damp dark. Each package opens to a sigh of trapped air, is no organic matter in it, no humus to hold water, no soft bits of former life. It is glassy, angular, unweathered. For growing, you do not use it raw. You process it. You mix it with water and binders to create inert matrices. You bake it to remove volatiles that you do not want near roots. Then, only in small experiments, you inoculate it with friendly microbes reproduced from earthly originals, the pioneers that can turn inert particles into something that can cradle life more gently. It will take time, generations. You do not rush. Your hydroponic systems provide the bulk of your harvest now, but you plant the idea of true lunar soil as a slow oath to the future. Internal walls of the greenhouse are lined with reflective materials that scatter light into soft, even blankets. You feel how the brightness seems to come from everywhere, leaving no harsh shadows that might confuse plants about the angle of the sun. You keep the air moving, because in these conditions, without convection pulling warm air upward and cool air down, heat and humidity would form little invisible pockets that could stifle leaves. Fans brush air past surfaces and along roots, and the plants respond with sturdier stems, almost as if they feel a gentle breeze. You watch leaves flutter slightly and sense the greenhouse taking a deep, contented breath. Maintenance has its own serene music. You replace a patch of tubing you noticed looked cloudy. You reseat a connector, aligning the notch with its mate until it clicks softly. You wipe down a panel with a cloth just damp enough to collect stray droplets. If a sensor drifts, you bring out calibration fluids from little vials labeled in calm colors. You dip, you rinse, you wait for numbers to match. There is satisfaction in this, a feeling that is not loud, but is deep, a sense of craft carried out with steady hands. You also monitor the quiet question of radiation exposure. The depths of space carry an invisible rain of high-energy particles. Your greenhouse is wrapped in a cradle of protection, regolith berms, water jackets, and materials that absorb and spread the energy. You check dosimeters that accumulate tiny counts over time. The numbers remain low, as expected, thanks to your careful design and the steady care that keeps shielding intact. You read the data like one more vital sign, as unemotional as the pulse on a wrist, and you move on when all is well. An afternoon ritual might involve the small laboratory bench near the greenhouse, where you test nutrient samples, check for microbial balance, and ensure no unwanted guests have found their way into your system. You see clear water in narrow tubes, the light shining through in pure columns. You swirl gently and observe how surfaces and corners hold on to droplets a little longer here. A microscope reveals a peaceful universe, beneficial bacteria in balanced numbers, algae in the photobioreactor with a bright spring green hue. You feel the room encourage you to slow down and watch, and you do, letting your eyes rest on the tiny and your mind rest on repetition. Tonight's dinner could include a small omelette if you keep a carefully managed container of quail or another compact bird. Perhaps you choose not to. Perhaps there is a simple stew made from rehydrated lentils, seasoned with a leaf of bay that travels You enjoy the familiar sequence of stirring and tasting and adjusting. You wash utensils with small, deliberate splashes of water, each captured and cleaned and returned to the loop, a closed circle that never loses a bead if you can help it. The gentle rhythm continues. As evening comes again, you wheel a chair to a small window, the viewfinder tucked beneath the layers, filtered but still clear. Earth appears, steady and blue-white, a marble nestled in a strip of darkness, unblinking, untroubled, smaller than your childhood memory of it, yet more alive than any light in the sky. You look, and you find comfort in the sight, the way you might feel listening to a familiar song played softly next door. The greenhouse hums, the habitat hums, your heartbeat hums. You settle into a calm that feels like home. The middle of your week arrives, and it feels exactly like the day before, which is the point and the pleasure. Repetition here is not dull, it is soothing. Imagine yourself waking up once more to the soft light and the soft sound of your gentle machines, stretching in the almost weightless way you have learned, then stepping softly into your boots and moving toward the tasks that are already waiting politely for you. The greenhouse door slides open with a whisper. The leaves sparkle faintly with a traced line of dew along their edges, the breath of the night in little beads. Today, the photobioreactor receives a little attention. It holds algae in slender tubes where light and water dance together. The algae turn faint traces of carbon into biomass, producing oxygen and a small amount of edible material that can serve as a supplement. You check the color. Rich green is a sign of health, and adjust the flow rate so the culture remains in what you call a happy place. The tubes feel warm to the touch but never hot. When harvest time comes, you filter a small amount through a membrane, rinsing it until it is clean and mild in taste. You add a spoonful to a smoothie made from greenhouse greens and rehydrated fruit, and the taste is better than the brief description can convey. Fresh and simple, clear on the tongue. The gentle rhythm continues. Your midweek logistics might include moving a tray of seedlings into a different light regime, encouraging them toward a compact, stout habit that will serve them well in a world where stems need to be confident even without the full tug of Earth's gravity. You adjust the blue to red ratio and set the fans to a slightly stronger breeze. You see how the plants respond, leaning into the movement, and you make a small note in your book, a handwritten record in an era of machines, because writing slows thought and makes it easy to remember. You pause, and then, if you feel like it, you can share a thought with us. What topic should we cover next? Later, you meet the rover again, but this time in a different role. Instead of transport, it becomes a survey tool, scanning and mapping smaller slopes around the greenhouse, helping to track how shadows fall and how surface temperatures shift with the sun's wandering loop. You drive it slowly along a planned path, pausing at each checkpoint. Its sensors blink a soft confirmation when a reading stabilizes. Back inside, the map unfolds as a smooth gradient of colors on a screen, a picture of heat and shade. You look for patterns you can use, places where a cooling panel might work better, where a pipe would want more insulation, where dust tends to settle. one in with a fingertip, the pressure light yet certain, and you cover with the teensiest scatter of inert medium to give the seed privacy and darkness. Moisture arrives via mist, gentle and even. The seeds will wake slowly, and they will not fall through their medium, because you have designed their cradles to hold them securely on all sides. You imagine tiny radicals finding their way out, slipping into a world designed with their needs in mind. The gentle rhythm continues. The phrase back-breaking routines returns as you clean the growing channels, a methodical process that takes time. In other places, the drains might be flushed with a quick gush. Here, you use moderate pressure and time to coax old nutrients and biofilm away from the surfaces. Brushes with soft bristles move in repetitive paths that leave a faint pattern on the plastic, more like a gentle sanding than a scrub. Your shoulders roll and your back flexes as you reach and sweep, and you feel the effort building in a quiet, steady way. Afterward, you stretch and rest and drink a measured cup of water, tasting the hint of minerals in the recycled stream, grateful for the calm coolness. As the week unfolds, you begin a small experiment with root crops. Little turnips and radishes sit in vertical columns, their roots cradled by sleeves that offer a little more density than the open trays do. You adjust moisture and ensure that no pockets of water form where you do not want them. The shapes of the roots depend on gravity more than leafy crops do, so you are gentle with the cues you offer them. Soft, vertical lights guide the shoots upward, and a slight gradient in moisture encourages roots to explore, shaping themselves into the forms you appreciate at harvest. You will measure results with a gentle curiosity, not a pressing need, and your notes will read like a bedtime story for plants. Another night arrives and brings with it a treat of quiet companionship. Perhaps there is a small group in your habitat, or perhaps you are alone and accompanied by recorded voices and scheduled check-ins. Conversation here, when it happens, is often soft and evenly paced, as if the moon itself has set the tone. You share thoughts about the day, about the plants that surprised you with a blossom earlier than expected, about a stubborn grommet that finally yielded to patient coaxing, about the taste of a new crop. There is satisfaction in small wins and steadiness in little routines that work as intended. After, you fall into a sleep that is gentle and untroubled, the kind that arrives after chores finished tidily and lights dimmed to a comforting dusk. In the days that follow, you maintain the soft heartbeat of the farm. You rotate crops as a chorus, with sowing days and transplant days and harvest days arranged so that every day holds a little of each. This avoids a feast and famine cycle and creates a mellow flow that fits your body's rhythm too. You press seeds into their cradles, place seedlings under lights, and cut mature leaves, always with the same attention to detail, always with the same gentle hands. Even packaging the harvest for storage is a meditative act. Containers fill in neat layers, and you label them with dates written in tidy script. The ink flows slowly in low gravity, and you let it, because nothing about this place asks you to rush. On maintenance day, you pause the nutrient flow to one section of the greenhouse and open small access panels that invite you to peer into the hidden organs of the system. You see the process is slow on purpose. You follow a checklist that acts like a lullaby, phrase by phrase. You set aside time for exercise again, because the body requires the pull of gravity it does not receive here. The treadmill anchors you with gentle straps that hold you in place while your feet find a familiar rhythm. The pace is not fast. The goal is not speed. It is a steady, feel-good movement that tells your bones and muscles that they are needed. In the background, the greenhouse lights shift, and you picture your plants as fellow passengers on a calm voyage. After exercise, a warm white bath helps your skin reset, and the moisture quickly joins the loop, becoming part of the farm's life once more. On one day, you build a small, regolith-based planter for a test. You mix processed lunar material with a binder and a little fiber from a plant polymer to give it flexibility. You press it into a mold with a curved bottom, making a shape that holds a wick and encourages water to gather where roots can find it without pooling. You let it cure under low heat, gentle, consistent, and then sand the surfaces with a sponge. The result is simple and lovely in its own way, a pale, porous vessel that looks like the moon and holds life like a cradle. You fill it with a controlled medium and gently place a seedling inside, thinking about how the first farmers on Earth might recognize you across time, though your tools are different, though your sky is not a sky. Another day brings a quiet reminder about condensation and the way the habitat is a living, breathing thing. You notice a faint fog on a cool corner behind a panel. You open the panel and see a little water gathered where it should not gather. There is no alarm in your voice. There is a towel and a vacuum that collects the drops and returns them. You add a small baffle that will nudge the air into moving through this little pocket better next time. The problem becomes an opportunity to refine, to whisper to the habitat that you are listening and adjusting, that you will keep it comfortable because it keeps you comfortable. The gentle rhythm continues. You take a moment in the middle of the week to listen to the alarm system's test, which is as gentle as possible. Lights flicker in a calm sequence. Tones sound in soft notes rather than harsh blasts. Warnings must be heard, but they do not have to be frightening. You stand by, watch the test move through its steps, and then sign off. The equipment returns to its restful hum, and the greenhouse breathes in relief. You think about how safety can be designed in ways that honor serenity and allow sleep to come easily. It is easy to imagine that all of this happens in solitude, but community can exist here in quiet ways. Messages arrive with a slow, measured cadence. You share photos of a particularly beautiful tomato cluster, leaves glossy and lightly textured. A colleague responds with a suggestion about a different nutrient ratio for the beans. Another shares a laugh about a basil stem that sprouted tiny roots in the atmospheric fog near a nozzle, a small, persistent act of life. The exchange is warm, not loud. It adds to the gentle rhythm you are keeping. Food continues to be the loveliest kind of science, an experiment you get to eat. One evening, you grind a small amount of wheat grown in a vertical array into flour. The grinder is enclosed, and it works slowly to keep dust contained. You mix flour with processed. The air in the greenhouse stays fresh, and the plants look neat and confident. Another maintenance task concerns the lighting array. Even LEDs, efficient and cool compared to older lamps, build heat and control modules that need occasional care. You open a panel and find a small film of dust, not lunar dust, but the normal dust of a closed system, collected by static. A soft brush and a slow vacuum stroke collect it. You check connections that glint with cheerful certainty and note that everything is as it should be. The satisfaction is subtle and pleasant, and you think of people tuning pianos, the way careful adjustments bring harmony. You close the panel and move on. Toward the end of the week, you harvest more generously as some crops reach their planned end. Radishes come up like bright marbles, their skins taut and shiny, their greens crisp. You rinse them and slice them thin, and they become peppery circles scattered over a salad. Basil plants that have grown tall offer you a final flush of leaves before you retire them and replace them with young ones. You remove the old roots from their supports, and you marvel at the delicate architecture of the threads that once did the silent work of life. You compost them, and under controlled conditions, they become the beginnings of soil for future experiments, a sweetness that returns to the system as a gift. The week may be marked by a delivery of ice from a nearby depot, a treasure extracted from shadowed craters, carefully handled and returned to you in insulated containers. You transfer it into water tanks that line your habitat like gentle guardians. The process is slow and careful, avoiding thermal shock, letting temperature find balance. Some of the ice becomes water for the greenhouse, some becomes hydrogen and oxygen when split, gas that can become energy later when recombined, gas that can become breathing air. Your role is to manage the quiet dance between forms and functions, to be the shepherd of molecules that never stop moving, even in the stillness of space. Every evening, your last pass through the greenhouse includes a moment of stillness. You step to the side of a row and look down the line of plants. You watch the tips of leaves quiver in the slow fan breeze. You see a small droplet of water gather at a leaf edge and then release, slipping along a thread to join a larger bead below. You glance at a gauge and see the numbers calm and familiar. You let all of this become your bedtime story. The gentle rhythm continues, and you feel yourself part of it. On the final day of the week, you take stock. You count the trays of greens harvested and the tomatoes ripening, the little jars of herbs drying in the slow air, the sealed bags of seed that have gone to cold storage. You count the hours of light that ran without incident, and the liters of water that passed through the system and came back again almost entirely. You count the messages shared, the notes you took, the small problems solved without fuss. You notice a slight soreness in your shoulders and respond with a stretch that feels soothing. You treat yourself kindly, because kindness is another resource that cycles, and more is always better. You imagine yourself writing a short, calm report about the week. The words flow, simple and clear, without drama. And so the days feel like a gentle series of waves, each much like peaceful in a place that does not require noise to be alive. You taste the last of your evening tea, rehydrated from a pinch of leaves, but fragrant and complete, and you let the steam slide across your face. The fans continue their hush, and the panels hold their quiet light. You think of sleep, and it comes closer of its own accord, not because you chase it, but because you invite it gently. Imagine yourself settling into your bunk one last time on this tour through a lunar week. The blanket is smooth. The pillow lifts your head as if it is the first leaf of a plant opening to the light. Your arms are heavy in a pleasant way, your legs rested and easy. You picture the greenhouse carrying on while you rest, pumps moving, lights dimming, roots sipping, leaves breathing. Every part of it is in a loop that respects your need for rest. The gentle rhythm continues, soft like a song without words. Before we end, let the sense of safety wrap around you. There is protection above and below and around. There are systems that keep their promises. There are routines that cradle the mind. You are welcome to drift now, to let thoughts wander or fade, to listen for the soft spaces between sounds. If you found comfort here, and if the calm helped your eyes grow heavy, you can like and subscribe so we can keep releasing videos this often. And if you wish, return to the playlist linked below whenever you want the gentle company of quiet science while you rest. May your sleep be steady, your breaths even, and your dreams as soft